It's time to join Montana's very own and your voice for agriculture, Talkin' Ag Lane Nordland, for today's Lanecast.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here on the Lanecast Ag Podcast. I'm Lane Nordland, and today we're going to be talking about an opportunity for cattle producers to put a little more money in their pockets. That's a novel idea, isn't it? And especially we are seeing some great prices here for calves this year. We're looking to the future as well. So we're going to be talking more about how producers can be paid off of grid premiums through the Angus Link Beef Score program, or the Genetic Merit Scorecard. For the first time, cattle producers can earn grid premiums based on the genetic merit of their cattle stemming from their investment in superior genetics. It's a collaboration between National Beef Packing and the premiums through the U.S. Premium Beef Grid for qualified cattle based on the Angus Link Genetic Merit Scorecard, as I mentioned. And joining us here today to talk about this opportunity for more profitability through that grid program, we are joined by the CEO of the American Angus Association, Mr. Mark McCully, and Troy Marshall, Director of Commercial Industry Relations with the association as well. Gentlemen, hey, thanks for joining us here today.
Oh, things are good here, Lane. Thanks for having us. We, like you've got some weather out in your country. We've had some pretty stormy weather here through the Kansas City area. Fortunately, right here in St. Joseph, Missouri, we've been spared, but it is certainly been threatening. Lots of moisture. Wish we could distribute it a little more evenly around the country.
Well, we'll take it as it is, and again, with prayers for all the folks that have seen this very catastrophic, especially in the tornado hit areas of the nation as well. And Troy, for yourself, how are things going here this spring?
Excellent. From an Angus Link perspective, we're seeing a lot of momentum and had a lot of good news. And of course, with the prices that we're seeing for all these calves, it's a pretty exciting time in the cattle business.
And Troy, you and I have talked quite a bit about Angus Link and the value-added programs that it is providing producers out in the countryside. And so this new announcement that came out this week that's really putting a premium on the genetic merit end of all the work that cattle producers put into building their cattle herd. I think it's a tip of the hat to them, but also a tip of the hat with some cash involved as well. Gentlemen, can we talk about what this new announcement is and how producers can really start maybe taking advantage of these grid premiums here in the near future?
Actually, I think it's a really revolutionary step in the business that's kind of transforming the way we market cattle. And it's really pretty simple. With the Angus Link Genetic Merit Scorecard, those producers that are enrolled in the program and are selling through a USPB grid in the state of Kansas there, they'll be able to take advantage of these premiums, which any cattle with 100 or higher on their GMS score will receive a premium of $5. And starting in December, if they have a score of 150 or higher, they will receive an additional $5 for a total of 10 back to that feeder or owner of those cattle. So exciting times where they're really, for the first time, we're seeing packers step out and reward producers, not only for how those cattle perform, but for the genetic selections they've made and the investment they've made in superior genetics.
And when we're looking at the genetic merit scorecard and discussing Angus Link, maybe I should backtrack a little bit here. And Mark, from your position as CEO with American Angus Association, obviously for your members, the foundation of their herds is meant for the commercial producer. That is the meat and potatoes of their businesses, providing high quality genetics for those commercial producers, those cow-calf guys out in the countryside. And so obviously this has been a top priority for the registered end of the business to really put that high quality genetics, all the work that goes into that herd, to get a little bit of a reward, obviously, for those cow-calf producers that are invested in having high-quality genetics in their herd, high-quality beef. And this is just another way to quantify it. How has that process been coming up to this point in the discussions of the creation of Angus Link and the process of collaborating with IMI and having the genetic merit scorecard? What has that been like from an association level?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It's really been kind of a two-pronged approach, right? We want to, and we have a long range set of long range objectives, and right in the middle of that is to enhance the profitability of our commercial cattle producer. And kind of that two-prong is first, obviously, with genetics. That's what our registered breeders work every day, is to put genetics into those commercial herds that fit their environment and fit their market and fit their needs and solve problems. Right. But then coming right alongside those genetics is our marketing programs, creating demand. And, you could say that started back in the late 70s with the advent of certified Angus beef, was to create pull-through demand for a branded end product that met a set of specifications that ultimately drove a mission of increasing the demand for registered Angus bulls. The next big phase, if you think about value-based marketing, I would say it's largely, it's taken a strong hold at the, that feeder to packer level. The packer sells the product every day to the end user based on value. Registered breeders sell their bulls on value, but this segment in the middle of the transactions around feeder cattle have maybe not been as clearly tied to value, and for lots of reasons, as maybe what we would like them to. And that was really the reason Angus Link was first built, was to a program that for those commercial producers that are using Angus genetics, they could better quantify objectively the genetic merit of their cattle, how they were going to feed, and how they were going to do on the rail. And so those scores are really put in place to better put, again, an objective measure. We always say the market can respond to the information it's provided, right? And so this gives the market, those buying those calves, more information around how those cattle are going to ultimately do. This actually, honestly, is a step maybe we really hadn't anticipated as much. When a packer steps up and says, National Beef, kudos to them, National Beef said, you know what? We want to also send a very strong signal back to producers that are investing in cattle, investing in genetics, right? And so we want to add a genetic merit score, beef score premium, right alongside the other premiums that are already there for quality grade and yield grade, and of course weight. We want to put that premium right alongside on our grid. And as Troy explained, for those cattle that are 100 a score or better, they get an additional $5 a head. And then come this later in the year, when they hit 150, those scores are 150, you're going to get an additional $5 or $10 in total. So it really aligns with this bigger picture of putting the right genetics, helping commercial cattle producers have the right genetics and the genetic tools, and then coming alongside them and help them get paid for those.
And Troy, as we look at that, and Mark touched upon that, what those premiums are going to be based on the genetic merit scorecard. What let's maybe just explain a little more for our audience. That is like, how do I participate? How do I get a genetic merit score? Let's talk about the collaboration with IMI and just the herd makeup again. What percentage needs to be Angus to qualify under this, and just truly how easy and simple it can be to really start taking advantage of these premiums that so many producers already have in their herds. They just haven't taken the steps to look at the genetic merit of it.
Yeah, no, it's a really exciting time. We had about $18 million in premiums last year paid out to people who are enrolled in the AngusLink program. And I think this announcement will just add to the overall demand for the AngusLink cattle as well. It's a really simple process to enroll. As I said, you can call IMI directly and begin the enrollment. And all we need to do is to have your bull battery that sired those calves. And so the registration numbers of those bulls. And they don't have to be 100% Angus sired to be in the scorecard. We do require them to be at least 50% Angus, registered Angus, to be enrolled in the program. But once they meet that specification, we just have a few questions about their cow herd makeup. And if they have historical information, that goes in as well. But all we really need is your herd bull battery to get started in the process.
Now, obviously, producers are always looking at just how much things cost and whatnot. What does it take to, as we're looking at that and working with IMI for the third-party verification, what does that process look like?
Well, we're so appreciative that IMI has actually stepped up, and they are subsidizing the cost to be part of Angus Verified or the Angus Link programs and get the Genetic Merit Scorecard. So there is no additional cost to the producer right now for those programs. The only cost associated is with the agent source verification and, of course, the EID, which was another exciting part about this program is that they're giving $1 premium back to producers that have cattle that have an EID in their ear when they reach national plants as well. So the return on investment is extremely good. For $3 per head, we've been averaging somewhere between $70 to $120, depending on what programs those cattle are enrolled in.
And that's almost $1 rebate. We could look at it too if they do have those EIDs.
Very much so.
Now, obviously, when we're looking at these opportunities, a big conversation that I have with so many producers when I'm out on the road or just engaging with them on social media is just obviously we are seeing some record cattle prices right now. Just what slaughter bulls and cows are bringing, and just the anticipation of what these contracts are going to be bringing on our video sales once they get up and running here shortly. We are thrilled about these prices. Very well deserved for the cow-calf producer in the countryside. But of course, that's all determined on the size of the U.S. cattle herd. We haven't seen herd rebuilding take place, and that will happen someday. Now, we will see the cattle herd grow in numbers. So I guess this could also be an opportunity for producers to look at, hey, those prices might fall a little bit when that cattle herd is rebuilt. But when you're a part of these programs where you're receiving a premium for that hard work, I think that's something folks really need to consider. Mark, what's your take on that?
No, I think you're right, Lane. I think, and historically we've seen when these calf prices get super high, right? We've tended in the past to kind of see these premiums kind of go away, right? They're all worth a lot of money. That's not what's really happened. I mean, because I think of the price levels that we're at, cattle feeders, they're paying for information right now because it's a form of risk management for them. They're putting a lot of money out on the line here. And so information around health, information around genetics, information around how these cattle are going to perform on a grid, man, that's super valuable for them to work into their risk management strategies. And so I think whether we're in these really, really good times or, as you say, as the cycle works itself through, and maybe we see some of these prices come off of where we're at today, what we're finding today is these are value-added programs regardless of where you're at. And I think the additional bonus maybe for the Genetic Merit Scorecard is maybe for a guy that's never retained ownership, doesn't maybe necessarily know where they're at, maybe doesn't have any interest in retaining ownership. These Genetic Merit Scores kind of almost give you a little bit of a report card too. And it's a way to kind of say, hey, I'm doing pretty good. I'm where I thought I was based on the investments I was making, or maybe I see some little bit of weak spots, and now is the time to maybe put some genetic selection pressure on some of these areas to make sure I'm really nicely positioned down the road when this market does get a little more competitive.
Well, and you mentioned that the report card, but I mean, those of us in the cattle business, we love to look at EPDs and look at the lineage of all the bulls or the cows that we're looking to invest in to improve our herds. We understand all that data, and we love looking at cattle. Well, I do. I like to look at the data and look at cattle too, but for buyers, sometimes they don't have the opportunity to go out into the field. The online video sales are still great, but when you have that genetic merit scorecard, it truly is a way that, and of course it's verified, that these cattle are exactly what they say they are. And when we look at that, Troy, how important is that going to be moving forward as consumers are looking to buy premium beef and maybe know more about it as well?
Yeah. Lane, I just followed up on Mark's comments as well. I think the benchmarking aspect is really important to producers so they can see whether they're keeping up with the industry or if they're actually falling a little bit behind as we go forward. It is a very competitive business, but the exciting thing from a genetic standpoint is genetics have never been worth more than they are today. and that's increasing. And part of that is these higher input prices and the higher overall prices make an additional pound of carcass weight, or the premiums we're seeing for certified Angus beef and prime as well. That quality grade is translating into real dollars. So I think we're seeing the buyers of feeder cattle look at the genetics more closely than ever. And you kind of touched on too, one thing that the AngusLink program does is try to build relationships between the segments and work to increase the flow of information between producers in the various segments of the industry. And I think that's very important overall to the consumer, and just improving the efficiency of our system and making sure that we're focused on the end product targets and what that consumer is truly demanding in the marketplace by sending the right market signals.
Now, obviously, there's going to be some work in getting folks to make sure and enroll, and they may be asking, how do I know that if I take these steps that National Beef is going to be seeing these cattle, whether they're on the video market or whatnot? How are you and Angus Link and IMI? How does that communication and relationship building work for folks that are going to try and take advantage of these premiums, especially with the video sales, and making sure that the right buyers are seeing these cattle for sale this year?
Yeah, no, that's the exciting thing with National's program with the grids, is that we don't have a way of guaranteeing when you sell the calves on Superior or wherever that they'll end up in a feed yard that will ultimately go up through a USPB grid. But they're more likely to, because those buyers are looking for them. And like our alliance with 44 Farms and Prime Pursuits and all these supply chains that are looking for cattle that are either Angus verified or have the scorecard, it just increases overall demand for the cattle that are enrolled in the Angus Link program and raises that base price. And so always in our business, the more buyers that you can be looking for your cattle, the better off you are.
Well, Troy, I always enjoy following the Angus Link Facebook page and seeing what cattle are going to be up for sale at certain auctions and whatnot, because I know you and your team follow that and do that promotion in addition to that. And it's just always great to just see some high quality cattle and the producers that are taking advantage of that.
Very much so. And I did want to mention, I'm jumping subjects on you too, but when we talked about expansion, one of the exciting things this spring as well is we're going to be adding a maternal score to the scorecard for those producers who are looking to market replacement females as we go into this next phase. And so it gives those people that are marketing maternal genetics or replacement females another opportunity to describe those cattle and hopefully position them a little bit better in the marketplace and help differentiate those real strong maternal genetics as well.
And obviously, up in my region here, we've pretty much wrapped up our spring bull sale season and citing the wonderful Kirk Angus with the American Angus Association. Up in Montana, Wyoming, the average was $7,181 for Angus Bulls, over 11,000 head marketed between October 1 and April 30th. That actually was the whole fiscal year marketing year for Bulls. Mark, as we look at that, and again, those are prices here for Montana, Wyoming. How important is it here that as we look at those prices, just all the work that your members put into having high quality cattle for sale and working with those commercial producers day in and day out to improve their herds?
Yeah, these sale reports and these sales across the country have just been incredible. And I think they reflect a number of things. They reflect the value of genetics. I think to Troy's comment earlier, I'm not sure genetics have ever been as important in the equation as they are today. I think it reflects, obviously, simply the cost of producing these rascals is they need to be. We need to be at these kind of levels. It speaks to I think the demand that's out there for these registered Angus bulls. I think the value of the pedigree, the value of these programs that users can now access when they're using registered Angus bulls. I think all these things are coming together. Not to mention, what coal bull prices are worth. Folks, I think, have truly taken advantage of hey, I don't need to keep these older bulls around and let them tear stuff up. Let's send them to town. Let's cash them out. Let's reload with really fresh genetics, cutting edge genetics, and be so really well positioned as they think about that next calf crop that those bulls are siring. So lots of things coming together, and I think ultimately underpinned by a lot of optimism in where this market's going to be and what these calves are going to be worth for several years to come.
And Troy, I just want to hit on that again, the cost of enrolling and then versus what these premiums are for going through Angus Link or Angus Verified up to this point.
Yeah, the cost enrolling in the program is simply to get the agent source verification through IMI, and that'll run between $3 and $3.50 per head. And as we spoke, we've seen average returns anywhere from $75 to $120 per head on the cattle over the last 2 to 3 years that have been enrolled in the program. So the return on investment is extremely good. It's a simple process, very low cost, yet pretty high reward for producers in today's market.
And again, those grid premiums, cattle harvested effective August 5th there through the U.S. Premium Beef Grid with National Beef Packing. That's going to be $5. And then that's a score of 100 on the Genetic Merit Scorecard. And then on December 1st, that second grid premium of cattle of 150 or more on that grid will be $10 a head. So just more opportunities here as we continue to see more rewards for putting good genetics in our herds, gentlemen.
It's just like you say, it's one more incentive out there for buyers of these cattle, for feeders that are part of U.S. Premium Beef. It's $5 and $10 a head, and in the feeding industry today, while the margins are pretty nice on the cow calf side, these margins have gotten a little tighter on the cattle feeding side. So $5 to $10 a head, or $11 when you throw the EID premium on there. That could be the difference on some of these cattle of bidding once or twice more on them. So it's significant. And again, big kudos we want to give to National Beef. They really stepped out and I think taken very much a leadership position here in the industry to say that they want to put more money back in the producers' pockets that are really investing in genetics. And we're excited to partner with them.
Troy, any last thoughts before I let you both get back to your day?
Lane, we just really appreciate the opportunity, and it is an exciting time in the business. And I know when we started the Angus Link program a few years back, the goal was, as Mark said, to put more dollars in there and to really reward producers for investing in superior genetics and the superior management they put into their cattle. And it's exciting that we're starting to see that pay off in the marketplace.
Well, again, friends, a lot of great information and more opportunities to put a little more profit back into your pockets as we continue to make a go of it out in the countryside. I would encourage folks just to visit Angus Link online, or for more information on the U.S. Premium Beef, visit uspremiumbeef.com along the way. And again, it's a great opportunity just for a little more profit and rewarding you for the high quality genetics and the work you put into your herd. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us here today.
It's been our pleasure.
Thank you, Lane.
All right, friends, that will do it for this conversation on the Lanecast Ag Podcast. I'm Lane Nordlund. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for tuning into the Lanecast with Talkin' Ag, Lane Nordlund. For more on Lane, check out his Facebook page, Lane Nordlund Ag Broadcaster, and NordlundCommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Lanecast on your Apple or Android devices. We look forward to joining you next time on the Lanecast.